Attention all passengers. Wilford Industries wishes you a good morning. The temperature outside is minus 119 degrees Celsius. As we enter the Yukon territory of the former Canada, we remind you, for your personal safety, be prepared to brace. We are 6 years, 9 months, and 26 days from departure. At the tone, the exact time will be 0800 hours. And now, for your listening and viewing pleasure, Wilford Industries is proud to present the latest offering from darkloopsproductions, the Snowpiercers.
The Snowpiercers, a podcast in which we, the head of hospitality, the social engineer, and the director of intercar relations, and the lead brakeman, discuss TNT's fantastic series, Snowpiercer. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher from Illinois State University. And tonight we discuss season 2, episode 7, Our Answer for Everything. Fellow crew members, please say hi to the audience and tell them a little something about yourself. And we will start with Cianna.
Hey everyone, I'm Cianna Greaves. I am a radio producer and podcast producer coming out of Chicago, Illinois.
Fantastic. And Stanford.
Hello, I'm Stanford Carpenter. I'm a cultural anthropologist coming to you out of Chicago.
Wonderful. And Leandra.
Hi, I'm Leandra Parris. I'm assistant professor of school psychology at William & Mary out in Virginia.
Fantastic. So you guys know how we do this, right? Favorite line, favorite scene, favorite character. Who wants to start? Go ahead, please. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I mean, I think y'all know what I'm going to say. This was Ruth's week. Every scene that she was in,
damn,
she just murdered it. I mean, Allison Wright's performance this entire season has been absolutely stellar. She, as the way things stand right now, she is the strongest person on that train. And I thought it was really, really interesting. You know, season 1, Ruth was an order follower. You know what I mean? That's what she did. But she's, slowly emerged as the strongest and bravest person, I think, on Snowpiercer.
The only one you would follow. Out of everyone you saw today, she's the only one I'd follow.
The only one.
The only one. I mean, Leighton didn't even say thank you.
Nope.
I mean, why are they writing this guy this way? Right? I mean, she just saved his arm. And
everybody. I mean, my favorite scene was when she was in, I guess that's the infirmary. When she was in the infirmary, and this was after Tristan had stopped by and given everybody the 411 on what
Tristan
was
brought the mail.
Piercer, and Lights was going to go out to find little Winnie, and we said, no, you can't go out there. I'll go. The empathy that she has for the tailies, which is, I can't believe we're still saying tailies. It's far into season 7, but that's a conversation for a little later on.
Yep.
It was really, really beautiful. Did I cry? Yeah, maybe.
No.
Maybe I cried a couple times.
It's weird how she's the head of hospitality and she's also the strongest character in the show. I don't know that that's a coincidence. It's almost as if they wanted to make sure that the head of hospitality was ultimately the real leader in the show. There's no reason they had to write Leighton that weird. I mean, Leighton's conversation with Pike was just ridiculous.
Did they have to write Leighton at all at this point?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I love the things.
Leighton at all at this point.
Well, no, they needed Leighton to give the pep talk that inspired everyone to riot.
Yep. They really needed someone to mess it up.
Oh my goodness.
This is not the guy we saw last season at all. I mean, he has his little he and Zara, he gives his like speech to the train, right? And Ruth says, I'm not sure everybody's going to take that the way you meant it. And he says something like, well, you know, the tailies needed to be defended. And then Zara says, yeah, he had to do something.
I mean, what killed me is it's like that's when you start looking at leadership 101, where it says oftentimes what's most important is what you don't do.
Right. And Ruth just says, well, okay, I guess if that's what you needed to do.
This is just a return because, you know, we find out that Ruth did own her own business, her own hospitality business. And prior to the big freeze or climate catastrophe that forced everybody on Snowpiercer, but I don't think there is a question right now where Ruth's royalties lie. She is 100% loyal to Snowpiercer. It felt like she was kind of wobbling back and forth even as the episode began. When she was, you know, reminiscing about, you know, the days of order on Snowpiercer, but I think her encounter with Winnie, you know, broke whatever spell Wilford had on her. I think it is well and truly broken. And
it's not like Leighton helped.
Leighton and I don't even think with Leighton, but she's there to protect the train and the passengers on Snowpiercer, 100%.
Yeah, it's so cool that you say that because that's who she was last year, wrapped up in a Wilford who wasn't there.
Exactly.
Now Wilford's here and she's looking at Wilford and Leighton and she's like, give me a break. And of course, you know, Melanie's not there. And I did like the scene where she said, you mentioned she was talking to Sam about the order they used to have. And he goes, yeah, you want to go back to that, taking arms, running a gulag in the back of the train? I thought, Sam, where have you been? Right. I mean, Sam's bringing truth to the table. He's not been doing that, right? He's just been doing his job and supporting people. But I agree with you. This season is almost Ruth's season.
I mean, I love that scene. Actually, that was on my list of favorite scenes when Ruth and Sam were going back and forth. You know, what I find really interesting about this is that you've got Wilford and you've got Leighton like battling out for the hearts and minds of the people, and neither of them is making any headway with the people who actually run the train.
Well said.
and in that, my prediction is we're going to kind of end this season with the people who actually run the train, like Ruth and Sam, you know,
Tristan.
and Alex to some
Don't
degree,
leave Tristan on.
and you know, and they're gonna rally around Tristan, and they're gonna be like, hey, you guys need to chill. And you're gonna, and I think that we're gonna go into the next season with Leighton and Wilford like still battling it out, but with a solid like kind of semi-neutral stance coming out of the people who run the train.
I gotta tell you, man, if they were to take out Wilford and Leighton at the end of this season, it would be so Kill Bill spectacular, right? It would be.
Leighton can go.
Yeah,
and
it's something
that hard a little bit. I mean, I love to hear Ruth, you know, speak out, and you know, she saved his harm in her speech, but she said, "This is your leader. You know, if you want change, call for it." But is he their leader? Why does it have to be Leighton? Everything the show that we're seeing so far in the show, it's still Leighton. There is no true challenge to his power in Snowpiercer other than his power over Snowpiercer other than Wilford.
I'm going to admit, I think they made very conscious choices in the writing room about making Leighton disposable as a leader because they wanted other characters to move to the front. But this
They
is not.
haven't disposed him yet. How is he disposable? I'm not seeing that. What am I not?
No. What I mean by that is we're going to write this guy in such a way that he's not the leader. That's what I meant, right? That they're going to say that in the end, by the time this is done, Melanie's going to come back, and it's going to be Melanie and Ruth running Snowpiercer. Right. And so
I don't think Melanie's going to be able to come back and do that.
Well, she'll be an advisor. She'll be the science officer, but I mean,
she'll be
in part because of what Sam said, right? How did Sam describe? Sam described Melanie's rule as you want. I mean, my quote. I wrote the quote. You want to do that job again, taking arms, running a gulag in the back of the train. That is kind of his take on Melanie's rule. And the fact that at the end he was kind of thinking about maybe, putting up the red candle for Wilford, says that he does not see Wilford as being responsible for what was happening under Melanie's rule.
I don't think that's necessarily true, because Ruth says in that same scene, she says, yes, Melanie, it was under Melanie, but they were Wilford's rules. I think that's understood across the board, that these were Wilford's rules. And they all knew what they were Wilford's rules. And the only way that Melanie could have gotten away with hiding the fact that Wilford wasn't on the train for so long was to run the train as Wilford would run it.
Yes, that's exactly the case. Unless she had simply opened the windows in first class and as we talked about last week.
I mean, there's that scene in season 1 when Ruth was like, oh, I don't want to go back down there. And Melanie was like, you love getting your coat on. She did relish that role. She loved it. She was feared in the tale. Yeah. And she embraced it. And I mean, it's great that she feels terrible about it now. I mean, wonderful. But,
Cianna, you mentioned being a little heartbroken about how they're writing Leighton, and I agree completely. I think this is kind of a waste of a character. Mm-hmm. I think they've intentionally written him this way.
And the fact that we're still rooting for Leighton, that she did save his arm, that it's like, this is your leader. I mean,
yes, that's
a little heartbreaking, because a wasted Leighton, I mean, that sort of reverberates around throughout the entire cast.
Yeah.
Will Ruth get that opportunity to lead? Will anybody ever, will anybody else really get that opportunity to step into a leadership position while Leighton's still alive? And I don't know what else Daveed Diggs has on plate, but I feel like Leighton's going to be with us for a while. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but.
Or they reorganize his role. I mean, I don't know if they did it intentionally, but he basically had this moment of, I'm going to give up my arm to solve this problem. And she comes around and solves the problem.
Which is stupid. Like, no, that's not the answer.
Exactly.
Like,
so who's the leader?
That's what I was going to say.
Like, no, dude, don't, no.
Yeah.
Doesn't satisfy any, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an idiot. And that ridiculous speech he gave over the PA system. That was, But,
what were you going to say, Leandra?
No, I was going to say that when I saw that scene, I didn't feel like Leighton was the leader in that scene. She's the one they all listened to. Mm-hmm. She's the one that got them to stop. Like, there were plenty of people saying, no, don't do this, when it was Pike, and so I felt like, if anything, that scene showed us that he's not in charge, she is. Mm-hmm. And so I really read that as like, but she's saying he's your leader. Like, I think she's propping him up because she thinks that the train needs him for some reason.
Exactly.
She's got a grand design that I don't know about. Like, she's got something up her, I don't know. I will say, I will agree that I really enjoyed watching Ruth this season, this particular episode, because there's a moment where she says, he invited me to come. Mm-hmm. And I think not too long ago, I would have went. Like, I think her admitting that like she was all about him, and like she's growing, and that she's really kind of shifting in her perception and her perspective on the train. I really enjoyed that one little line of, I would have went not that long ago. Like, acknowledging that she hasn't always been on this team, to me spoke a lot to her character development, which is why she's so great. It's just been like a slow build where you kind of been questioning her all season, and now she's firmly on Snowpiercer, and I think that's a great place to put her.
And she never saw herself as the leader. She saw herself as the head of hospitality, which is a very other-oriented position, never really realizing that that's what good leadership is, right? Is an other-oriented view of how to do things. So she's kind of intuitively growing through these different things that the writers are putting through. And it's the part of the show that I honestly feel is most authentic, right? And yeah.
I guess what I just to clarify, what I felt really heartbroken about was in that particular scene is that Ruth, as a woman, sort of did use her platform and this moment of power to prop up a, weak man. And it just was kind of like, oh, girl.
So that's why I think they're doing a really good job of slow rolling her character. I think she still hasn't even thought about being the leader of Snowpiercer. What came out of her intuitively in that moment is, this is not the way that you do this.
Right. She
brings this emotional intensity coupled with words that actually work in the moment. And so I think they're unveiling her powers slowly, and she's going to come to realize at the end. We've talked about this before, right? Who's going to take out Wilford? I think it's going to be Ruth. Well, we'll see. Maybe.
And I think that is the moment that spell broke. I mean, after, talking to Winnie and saying, hey, I lost my mom early too. And the fact that she brought that trauma and grief to another little girl. I mean, she wasn't losing it, but she was just emotionally exposed at that point when she said, this is barbaric. Like, this is not how you solve things. Yeah. Like, we can't do this anymore. This doesn't work anymore. It'll change you. This is not who you want to be. Trust me. And I thought that was a very powerful scene.
I love that scene with her and Winnie in the little observatory room where she really owned what she did to her. She's like, yeah, I did that. She didn't justify it. She didn't explain it away. She did a very authentic, I did something horrible and I'm here to protect you now. I just felt like that was a very fraught moment that had me feeling very tense for all kinds of reasons. By the way, where is Pike? What happened? Oh no, we know what happened to Pike. Never mind. It took me a minute to be like, oh yeah, that's the whole arm thing. But I did enjoy that. I was like, oh no, she's going to try to justify it, or she's going to try to say she wasn't the one who made the call, or she was told to do it and she didn't. And that, to me, I think that, along with the scene with Leighton and the arm, really kind of shows that she is genuinely someone who could run the train.
Yeah, I agree. She's the only one I've seen who honestly comes to grip with the trauma her own life creates in the world. I mean, Leighton's got Zara there saying whatever she thinks she needs to say to make him feel good about whatever he has to decide to do. But I thought the authenticity coming out of Ruth, and I'm going to argue the authenticity coming out of Pike. I thought that conversation between Pike and Leighton was fantastic, because Leighton, just the words he was saying, just had no appreciation of the depth of the trauma he had brought into Pike's life by asking Pike to murder someone. It's like, if you're going to be the Don, as you said, Cianna, if you're going to be the Don, you've got to be a little more in the game than the way you were reacting to Pike. Hey man, you got to chill out. Whatever.
He's such an airhead. Such a oh my God. If Snowpiercer had a lacrosse team, Leighton would be captain.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, bro, you gotta chill out, man. What?
You made me murder someone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Am I making you nervous? Am I making you uncomfortable? Really, Leighton? It's too much.
And Layton was a detective. He'd seen this stuff, so why are they writing him as if he's a kid off the block, kid,
Seriously,
just,
detect.
yeah, that's why I feel we're being written at with him.
Read a room. I mean, come on. Please. The last thing I want to say about, Ruth, and you can probably edit this out, but there was something very chilling about watching her transformation back to who Ruth was prior to Snowpiercer, and her interaction with Winnie, especially because she couldn't understand why Winnie was afraid of her.
Mm.
She just saw a little girl in need, and her first instinct was to help her.
Right.
Ruth comes off as a genuinely nice, warm, caring, nurturing person in that scene. And what did Melanie or Wilfred have to say to make her despise and loathe these people in the tale so much that beyond her nature, she would act against her nature, which, I mean, the way she was interacting with Winnie, it seemed just very intuitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What was it about the people in the tale, other than they didn't buy a ticket? What did they say to Ruth and to the brakemen and the breachmen to make them despise the people on the tale so much that they would torture and murder and starve them and sterilize them? I mean, they were literally running a concentration camp.
Well,
and
I'll tell you what.
It's interesting because you look at like the movie The Reader, or
all right, yep,
if
exactly.
you saw The Devil Next Door, that documentary on Netflix, and they talk about John Demjanjuk, and like he was a great grandfather, and he was so kind, and he was so sweet, and I don't know, it's just it's chilling.
Well, it is chilling, and
chilling.
the fact that you take it to Nazi Germany is precisely what I experienced. Watching Ruth trying to get that.
They're not. They are regular schmegular mothers and daughters and sons and fathers, and it's very chilling.
I honestly think that this character is partly an examination of the contradiction of being a German citizen in Germany in the 30s, right? In other words, there's this, people can carry ands and ands with them all over the place. They can carry all kinds of contradictions, and if they're in a world that's helping them disguise their dissonance about a group and turn it into virtue to harm them, that can happen. I mean, in psychology, a guy by the name of Milner showed that, like, 2/3 of the population will shock someone so you can't hear them scream anymore, just because someone asked them to. So I really like that what they did with Ruth caused that in me. It's like, okay, wait a minute, this is supposed to be someone who knows, and why now? And guys, this will happen anywhere, anytime, man. And we just had a whole bunch of people charge the capital of the United States. Wow. All believing a certain thing about certain people. And I guarantee you they all like each other. And I guarantee you they go home and they express all kinds of empathy to their families and their others. So it's not like they don't have love in their life.
They were,
so,
attacking and beating to death. Yeah.
No, it's part of the, some people want to call it the dark side of the human condition. And I'm there. I know what that means. I prefer the shadow side of the human condition, in the sense that we all have these borders we keep with who we're going to let in and who we're going to keep out of our lives. And culture has a huge impact on how that plays out. Infrastructure has a huge impact on how that's going to play out. And if I say I can see or I can understand, that makes it sound like I'm appreciating and saying I agree, but that's not the case. I can't understand how someone living in a situation like Ruth was, in a condition of privilege, with the Taylor situation, being in a position of power. It doesn't surprise me that someone would be in that space and then simply, well, the tailies are a problem, right? They just get conceptualized as a problem, and because she's doing Wilford's good work. For me, there were so many creepy Wilford equals God analogies this week that I got a little creeped out, to be honest. But no,
and I'm not understanding necessarily what the genesis of that is, other than this is a man that you bought a ticket for. I mean, I think you need to understand. We need to know more about Wilford prior to the climate catastrophe for it to make sense. It just seems very illogical at this point.
No, jump on in, Stanford.
So, I mean, what I'm thinking of is I had like favorite moment, but I also had my what the hell moment. And a lot of this is making me think of my what the hell moment. So it was towards the beginning, and remember they at the beginning they call Wilford and they ask to talk to Audrey, and Audrey eventually comes over, and they're in the background, they're like trying to figure out what's Audrey's deal. Has she defected? And Ruth makes this statement that seems like a funny throwaway line, but I think there's more there. She said, so like, what's up with Audrey? Has she defected? And then Ruth just blurts out, or she's freshly shagged bathing in rose water.
Which she was.
And she was. And she was freshly shagged bathing in rose water. And the thing is, that's not something that someone just kind of guesses.
Right.
So what this tells me, and what I'm really curious to see is what was Ruth's relationship with Wilford? Now, I certainly hope that they're not going to do Wilford was sleeping with Ruth too. I don't think that that's what they're going to do. But I think that what's going to be interesting is we're going to find out that Ruth and Wilford were close and have some sort of very close relationship that allows her to kind of see that coming. Because she always seems to be tempted, like, oh, maybe I should go back to him, right? There's definitely a much bigger story there. And it's not just about who she was beforehand, but it's about what her relationship with Wilford was. I mean, heck, it wouldn't even surprise me if she's somehow related to Wilford, right? But I just that line just stuck with me. It stuck with me the entire time. Like I kept waiting for the rest of the episode for us to find out. Okay, so why does she she's so got his number?
Well, look, early when we were talking early in an early episode, I thought that maybe the relationship between Ruth and Wilford was an expression of the British monarchy and the citizenry, right? And I still feel that's kind of it. She just can't shake her commitment to the monarchy. And,
but how would she know about his penchant for rosewater? That means that she spent a lot of time
being his hospitality person. She's made his bath a lot.
That's what they're supposed to do. And I think Ruth, I don't know that she necessarily.
No, but hospitality never had a chance to serve Wilford. Remember,
she got thrown off her in. He used to come to her bed and breakfast, remember?
Right.
Okay. One other thing that was interesting about this episode, I agree with all of you that this was very much Ruth's episode, right? She had all the shining moments, and all but one shining moment, right? Like she shined throughout, but the one time she didn't shine was when my favorite character, my man Tristan, showed up.
Delivered the news.
I'm just saying. So, hey, let's go down what happened. So yet again, my man Tristan saves the day. Yeah. When Leighton gets up and he decides to give the pep talk, what happens? We got a riot. Was there ever a riot when Tristan spoke? No. Tristan was the voice of calm. The voice of calm. And so now we've got the riot. The riot's going on. Everyone's hiding. They're hiding in the they're hiding in the infirmary. And what's the first thing Ruth does when the crap has hit the fan? What does she say to Zara? Call Tristan.
They need answers.
And he Tristan didn't just do one of those pick up the phone and say what was up. Tristan came over there. He came to the door. He came to the window of the door. And while all mayhem was broken out, while he was swimming in mayhem, he stopped and took care of their issue. Why? Because my man Tristan knows how to handle business. He doesn't need the limelight. He just needs enough light to see you so that he can address your problem. So, yet again, best character of the week, my man Tristan.
I'm glad to see you finally come around to appreciating the quality of Tristan's character and, you know, what he contributes to the show.
We are going to do a t-shirt, right? That just says my man Tristan. And I wanted to have his face when she lifts the window up and he's standing there. Like, I think we need to make that t-shirt for Stanford.
There you go. Sell it as merch. My man Tristan.
I mean, he definitely was their first call.
That happened, and I bust out laughing. And Adam's like, "What's funny about this?" And I'm like, "You just don't worry."
By the way, that was the only time you saw him the whole episode.
Because he only shows up when he's absolutely positively needed. The rest of the time, he's behind the scenes making everything work.
He is. Okay, Audrey and Wilford and Keith. Once again, we deal with suicide, and then we go a step darker, perhaps. What do you guys think? Is Audrey playing? Is she really, that's who she is?
Okay, I don't know the answers to that. All I will say is that this actually really upset me about this episode, and I almost had to turn it off. Because even if she is playing him, she traumatized someone in the middle of all of that. Yeah. Like, I don't care if you're playing him. There's no coming back for Audrey for me. Like, sorry.
Yep.
It was
done.
Very uncomfortable. Like, during our rewatch, I was like, can we fast forward these scenes? Didn't watch for me this week. I don't need to see that again.
There's something to ask about the show, right? I mean, is this exploitation?
Absolutely.
Is there something that we're learning as a culture by witnessing all of this? You know, I don't usually put that kind of pressure on entertainment, but when you're going to go to those depths to get a rile out of an audience, it's like, okay, why?
Well, I think that we're learning a very valuable lesson in terms of just the utter depravity of the writers on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, I really think that because they seem to be doing it, and this is actually, when they do this, the show loses me, which is when they try and make it the more they try and make Wilford like seem almost supernaturally evil, that's when I want to walk away from the show. Because what they've kind of done throughout this whole thing is they have this thing where they imply that somehow Wilford is this incredible tempter who like gets people to do evil things. That's the real theme for me here with what they seem to be doing in the writer's room. It's like, it's not just that Wilford's evil, it's that he makes other people evil, and that's why we shouldn't like him. And I think that is I think it's problematic from a world building standpoint, but it also shows a real weakness in the writing. You know, that they cannot conceive of an evil that isn't like supernatural in scale, especially in what is essentially a science fiction story.
Yeah.
Like there's actually not a space for the supernatural in this story, but they have to put it in order to show the evil of Wilford. I don't need it. And I'm sorry, like with this one, when I saw Audrey do that, I'm like, I guess she's got to go. I don't care what her traumas are. She has been defined by her traumas in such a way that she is a clear and present danger to any human being.
So my question is, has Audrey been using her powers of her ability to manipulate people emotionally to recruit for Wilford on Snowpiercer?
Ooh. See, and I was just about to say that I was really disappointed because I felt like they set her up to be like with Melanie and Ruth, like one of the heroines who's gonna like come in and strong female lead. You know, she's the other side of, and now that you say that, I'm like, man, is she gonna be like a Cersei here, where like she's the other side of that effort?
The thing about Cersei, and she was just cruel. And it's interesting that you bring up the Game of Thrones thing, because in instance Stanford was talking about supernatural evil, there were very few characters on Game of Thrones that were supernatural evil. They were all rational murderers, and you didn't have
rapists.
What's that?
And rapists. And rape after rape. I don't know if you guys read the books. After rape after rape. I mean, wow.
And I didn't see them bring the supernatural into making these people evil. They were just evil because of the choices they were making. And you didn't have to do these cult level things. Right? The only cult level character I remember is the Red Witch and then Jacques and Jahar. Right? These are people that, you know, had a religious thing that they brought to death. But all the rest of the people were, if they were evil, they were just evil because they were greedy and mean, not because they were, like you're saying, it's kind of supernatural element. I thought they were playing with a fire that they just didn't get. And I'm looking at, okay, I get, you know, let's put that in there. Like we and then we'll put this little sentence at the end about if you're thinking about committing suicide, call this and call this. And I said, the cost benefit doesn't play out for me yet. I don't see what's the benefit. And as you know, I talked earlier about, I will be very disappointed if Wilford is a cardboard, you know, mustache twirling villain. And now he's just become the devil, and she's become what, the devil's mistress? I don't know. But just, I'll just stop there. I didn't react well.
You know, in writing, you know, you're always asking, when you're writing these you know, massive stories and really large, sort of all-encompassing narratives, you definitely want to show your audience more than you tell them. But for some reason, when Wilford's concerned, his dialogue, the dialogue they write for Wilford is impeccable. But all of these crazy things that people do in the name of Wilford, it just seems to fall so flat.
Yeah, pretty cardboard.
I mean, it's just, showing doesn't really work for the character of Wilford in Snowpiercer.
It's because oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's because they
go ahead.
It's because, well, I think it's because, you know, the writers forgot that, you know, if you want evil to be effective in a storyline, you have to care for the person, and you have to find a way to make the reader care, right? That you know, it's a very trite saying, which is that everyone's the hero of their own story, right? And the writers are not giving us a chance to understand how it is that Wilford is the hero of his story. And there's a lot of stuff in there that they could be playing around with, right? That could actually give us a much better view of Wilford, that actually makes him more evil and more likable at the same time. But they just, it's like every time they get to the moment where they could do it, they go the other way.
Yeah, because even his little back and forth with Alex this week, I was like, ooh, okay, Mr. Wilford. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like Wilford. He's very charming. I want to like Wilford, but, you know, yeah, you're right.
How did he, I guess you could say that he's got charisma.
Yeah.
But they've not had him really have a single conversation that's seductive.
Right.
Every conversation, he never says anything nice to anybody. I mean, it's always how, you are only here because of me, and well, if I let you spend for a week with your mother, well, of course you've got to make a choice. So if, he doesn't, at least in what we're seeing, if he was able to swindle a whole bunch of people into investing billions and billions and billions in the construction of this train system, I have to believe he said something nice about someone at some point.
Right.
And kind of seduced them into thinking he thought they were good people. And I have not seen him at all try to be seductive, other than with his just natural charm. And I mean, I don't know. That was their.
Does he have to be seductive at this point, though? I mean,
that's the thing
in the game.
You're right.
They took his damn train from him.
He's got Big Alice.
I was gonna say, like,
the train.
In the flashbacks, he does seem like a business-oriented guy who's short-sighted and egotistical, and he doesn't seem like the look on his face as the train is leaving. Like, I'm wondering if they've given themselves enough room to explain some of his current behaviors with what's happened since then, because he doesn't come off quite as, I don't want to say neurotic because I hate that word, but like,
I get it.
Like, well, I don't know, like there's an edge to him now that is like he's constantly shaky, and like Sean Bean's doing a great job, because I'm always like, what is up with you? And I agree, Cianna, like I know, Scott, you're saying that he's like not seductive, but there are times where he talks and I'm like,
oh,
I'm a little bit like, I don't, if you weren't crazy. But I think you're right about him being seductive, because if you remember when Ruth talked about how he got her, like one of the reasons she liked him so much is because he made her feel really special, and he brought her in, and he's the reason that she got this opportunity, and he recognized how good she was at her job and appreciated it.
Audrey, he just,
right.
She describes herself as like some sea urchin who, ran away from home and had a hard life. And Wilford saw something amazing in her, like he did with Melanie when he said, "I would never say this in front of the investors, but this is your train as much as mine." You know what I mean?
Well, then maybe we need a backstory episode on Wilford instead of all this warfare in Snowpiercer. I mean,
and he's smiling in 95% of the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if he's telling people to kill themselves, you know what I mean? He's smiling in almost every scene he's in. He has a massive smile on his face.
Yeah, I don't know how the contracts for these shows work, right? But I would think, okay, we did this killer first season. Now I'm going to take some time to explain these characters in a little more depth so we can go into a third season. And all this train war struggle really feels like filler. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes.
It just feels like filler. And there's more there's more story to be told that I think isn't being told. And maybe we'll get it in season 3, but
I'm super confused about the whole Taylor thing. I don't understand. I just don't understand. Now suddenly everybody hates the Tailies. Once a Tailie, always a Tailie. Like I don't get it.
It's also bizarre because
if
you look at the way that train is, the people in first and second class never even saw a Tailie.
Right. Because they were 5 miles back.
Yeah.
Right.
5 miles back. I've never been there. They never came up around. No. Yeah.
And how were they not anticipating? I mean, why is anybody surprised? How were they not anticipating that there was going to be any kind of violent backlash against the revolution? What did Leighton think? Now he's just in a suite with Zara in first class, and all he has to do is focus on Wilford, and everything's everything. I mean, I don't.
The way they talk is so Ken and Barbie. So, for example, when there's a conversation where they recognize. Oh, he has this conversation with a Pike, and then he's with Zara, and he says, "I think I messed him up." Wait a minute, what does she say? Leighton says, "I think I messed him up," and Zara says, "Come on, you can turn this around." I mean, looks like that, but cheerleaders.
Yeah, I was gonna say she sounds like a little cheerleader. He's like, rah, rah.
And
let me just say, like, even like a bad cheerleader. I was a cheerleader for 15 years, and I didn't sound that corny. Like,
And that's why when Zara and Leighton are in the room with Ruth, when Leighton gives that bomb of a talk, and they say, well, the Tailies got to be protected, and Zara says, yeah, he had to do something, and Ruth just kind of says, well, okay. I mean, she just says, I'm not talking to these idiots. I get that there's no room to be purchased by any more conversation. They have just diagnosed themselves. It's clear. I'm just going to go talk to Sam. And
I'm going to call Tristan. And
I love that scene. She just looks at him and says, well, okay, then.
Okay.
Do what you have to do. And it walks
it's a little
out.
bit like Whoopi Goldberg this week with like, okay. Like, just, it was so good.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
I just, I don't understand.
So we all like Ruth. We all like what they're doing with Ruth. We all like what they're doing with Melanie.
Don't like what they're doing with the tail.
Yeah.
Why are they still in the tail? Isn't this what they fought for? Why the hell are they still in the tail?
Yes.
You have the whole train. You can go anywhere you want. Wasn't that the whole freaking point?
Isn't that like Revolution Point 3, redistribute the wealth?
One, like.
That's what they were all like. Yeah,
there's no reason for them to be sleeping in those bunk beds. I mean, it's
And I got to tell you, for Leighton to actually move into a first class suite is such a newbie move. I mean,
right.
I'll go hang in the tail that my wife, my whatever Zara is, and we're going to go live the life of the people that I fought with. That's what you do when you're a leader, and that's why he's been compromised. He just doesn't.
He was compromised with that grilled cheese sandwich. Come on, okay? That grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup.
Okay. Hey, what?
He was compromised all the way back then. And Stanford brought up a great point. What happened to the drawers? Are we just not using those anymore?
Are they get those people out, or is there still an entire car full of comatose people? Also, while we're on the subject, why did the priest guy have access outside? Does every car come with a suicide hose thing? I'm confused.
That's a new phrase. The suicide hose.
Like,
and did you
the hair dryer converted to
why? Like, why would you do that when you're building the train? Why would you? What? I'm just very confused, and I'm also very confused about that whole thing. I think I may have not been paying attention.
No, you were paying attention.
Okay, I don't know what happened.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a good point. Where are the drawers? Why can everyone commit suicide in their car? And why is it a special wood box? I don't know. I just have questions.
Why did the minister have to be the bad guy?
Yeah.
I mean, there was no, in other words, when he said something like, what's 8 lives to create order or safety? It's like that. What? I mean, there was no cost benefit.
Exactly. Like what?
I mean,
what order has
what
been created?
Yeah.
There's literally a riot happening as he's saying this.
Oh my god.
And I don't mean to harp on this, but he sticks the hose in. He gets exposed for all of about 3 seconds, and half his face is frozen solid, right?
How cold is that?
Now, and exactly. Meanwhile, Melanie just walks into the room that's been exposed to the cold for 7 years and just takes off her helmet. Hey.
Yeah.
I geothermal pocket so she can hang out in a t-shirt and a pair of
got one of those under my house.
How cold was it? Why are they never telling us, Scott?
I experienced that whole scene as a DC villain backstory.
I was Two-Face? That's what I said. I'm what? Now there's another cartoon villain on Snow. So is he Snowpiercer's Icy Bob? Is this what we're going with now?
Oh, I just thought, okay, he's gonna have scars on half of his face. Oh, it's gonna be Two-Face. This is how DC does it. I mean, it's just that clunky. Sorry.
Sweet Craw McGraw moves.
Oh man.
Yep.
I can't.
And at the end, we go get Icy Bomb ready. Okay, so bring out Icy.
Gonna be like, kiss my ass, dude. So
Icy Bob's gonna say, "I'm gonna smoke my blunt." Y'all go do what
you guys are spending
really
all this
cool
time
that
talking
we
about.
had that scene where we realized that Icy Bob is very aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
He realizes how effed up this entire situation is, and I don't think he's just gonna go out and do Wilford's bidding.
Or more importantly, Icy Bob is hanging with Josie.
Exactly.
That's right.
I don't think that you
Bob's
bring
a really
Icy
sweet
Bob
guy.
back without bringing back Josie.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
he's
think
been
Bob's really
compromised.
sweet.
He's Team
Yeah.
Josie for sure.
He's got a heart. Like I think it's when we first met him, I'm like, oh, it's like a video game mindless mid-boss level kind of thing, right?
Right.
But no, like he's got like a whole, like he's sweet.
He's really
and,
coherent, and he knows that he's being tortured.
right.
He
Tortured.
cannot be the one who takes out Wilford. It cannot be him.
It should be.
It was,
They've
I
been
wanted
torturing
to be
poor
Josie
man
personally.
for, I mean, God knows how long they've been running experiments on Icy Bob.
That's
fair enough.
true.
He definitely has to take out the doctor's headwood,
Yeah, agreed.
for sure.
I
That would
think
be
the
an
doctor's
interesting-
head would survive. I think they
Right.
have to survive because at a certain point they need doctors big time.
And they
And-
are clearly smarter than the ones they have on Snowpiercer.
And they're very much they're loyal to the highest bidder. I don't get the sense that they're like in love with Wilford. They're just like he's writing the checks.
Yeah, let's go to that book club and just keep the dude quiet. Let's just do what he asks and keep quiet and have our own private conversations. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Okay. Any other lines, scenes?
I will say my actual favorite scene, you guys already brought it up, but it's the end where Sam
Yeah.
is sitting with his family and he's like, I don't know yet. Like you can tell he's being very intentional about reading the situation. And like he spent a lot of time talking about like, I have a wife at home, and like I kind of just wrote him off as like a side character. But now that we get to see that he's way more in touch with the entire train than I originally thought. And that scene with the red lights as they're doing the spiral, that was just really well done. Like,
It was.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. So I'm not super thrilled that the majority of Snowpiercer seems to be silently telling we're here for you, but I do like the idea of like what that's. I just liked it. Well, Stanford, I'm assuming that your take is that Tristan will take over the train, right? Save everybody.
No, Tristan doesn't need to take over the train to bring goodness to all people. See, because he's above that.
Okay.
Tristan's on his own journey. His own journey of it's an evolutionary journey of self-actualization, actually, right? And what's going to happen is that eventually Tristan is going to transcend the need for just as Tristan has transcended the need for spotlight, he will transcend the need for title. In fact, the only title he will need is that he is the Tristan.
With a capital T.
Yeah.
and the.
I'm gonna need you to write this spinoff. Go ahead and do that.
Hey man, you call it Tristan's Tale. Right? He's 1 season, 10 episodes, in and out. All righty. So that about wraps it up for tonight's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Crew members, please tell the audience where they can find you on social media, and we will start with Cianna.
Hi, you can find me on Twitter at CC Greaves. That's CICIGREAVES.
Excellent. Stanford.
You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Clubhouse at SW Carpenter.
Fantastic. Leandra.
It's Leandra. You can find me on Twitter at Parris Leandra at PARRIS Leandra.
Awesome. And you can find me on Twitter at dark_loops. You can find all episodes of the Snowpiercers at Dark Loops Productions channel on YouTube. If you'd like to leave feedback about this podcast, please leave it below on this YouTube page or send an email to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com. And we'll be sure to read it at the end of our next podcast. So there it is. From all of us to all of you, big hugs, and remember,
When in doubt, call Tristan.
I think we just end there, guys.
Yeah.
I think we just end there. Perfect.